Hey everybody, P.D. Turner, executive producer and host of your Break It Down show. Hey, listen, we had on Sarah Clark the other day, Clarky Clark, and we got her because Jonny Moseley and I go way, way back. I don't want to act like we're super friends or nothing like that, but we've known each other for a long time. Actually, before Sarah Clark even started doing her show in the Bay Area, which is one of the longest shows in the Bay. It's the Sarah and Vinnie Show. It's on Alice Radio 97.3, what used to be the Rocker, and it's now been Alice for decades. And she's one of the, she's one of the standard bearers now in the Bay in terms of morning drive time radio. And so to get her on the show because of Jonny is just such a treat, because look, Sarah's an out and out professional, but she's also super entertaining, and people from my area, because John and I come from the Bay Area, people from our area there have grown up, have become adults, and stayed with these guys as they've grown up and become adults. So I think you're going to love our conversation with Sarah, because she's cool about who she is and where she's been, and knows exactly what she's doing. And I just think the world of someone like that. And so I wanted to make sure I rushed. Normally we would put the show up several weeks from now because this is the backlog that we have. But I just was so happy to have it up. I wanted to make sure everybody else had a chance to really enjoy this show. And plus also, Sarah and Vinnie were talking a lot of mad smack about the Break It Down show and how we were big time in it, but not putting Sarah up. That, of course, is not the case. We just run a backlog on the podcast side and we go live. So for those of you who are new to the show, we do lives 5 days a week. And then we also post a show that's basically live to tape 5 days a week as well. So there's a lot of content coming at you. So if you want to follow the live shows, you can do it on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. If you just look me at P.D. Turner, I can send you the link. I can connect you whatever way it is. We're super thankful to have all of the people who love Sarah and Vinnie. And we're going to get Vinnie soon too. We're super thankful to have you guys check the show out. Thank you so much. There is a lot here. If you like combat guys, if you like rock and roll, if you like anything. We have all of it on here, and I'm super glad to have all of you here to check out the show today. Thank you so much to Sarah for all the shout outs and the plus ups on the show, on her social media. It's fantastic. Thank you all so much. Hey, the one thing I always say is save the brave, savethebrave.org. If you're into charity, if you're into veterans, that's the charity that I represent. We are the media arm for Save the Brave, and Nick and Scott and I, we are all trying to push hard on getting veteran suicide under control, at least here where we have some impact. So we're going to continue to do that. And that's how you can help us, is by going to savethebrave.org, drop a little money in each month, do a one-time donation, contribute with your attention, your tweets, whatever it is. Anything helps to get the word out to help these veterans. All right, enough about that. Here comes Sarah Clark by popular demand.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, this is Sarah Clark, and you are watching the Break It Down show. Here we go.
You sure are. Yes, indeed. Sarah Clark has been hosting the morning show at Alice at 97.3 in San Francisco since 1997. Pete and I both have kids who were born in 1997. That's how we know. And we've been listening much of the whole time. Here's how I will tell you. I remember when Alice first came on the air, because I was a listener of all the Bay Area radio stations, including KRQR, which Alice replaced. And I remember that original weird theme song that went, Alice, who the is Alice? And I knew that it had a shelf life, but I'm certainly glad that while that song went away, you did not. You stuck. You've been there. You are the trooper in the Bay Area. I think you have the title now.
Impossible. It's Don Blue gone. Come on. Someone has to have been on longer. Well, I was just a kid when I took that job.
Yeah.
I thought,
and now you are a silver fox. Look at you.
Look at me. I am actually a silver fox. I'm a silver. I'm a vixen. A silver vixen. Isn't that a female fox?
Yeah. Right. You know what? And coincidentally, my wife decided right at the same time as you to just, that's it. I'm not dying it anymore. We're doing
What's the point? I know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Breaking news, old breaking news, but yeah, I love it.
It's just recently breaking, because your decision to just Embrace Your Hair Going Gray is pretty fresh, right?
It is. I thought about it for a while. A couple years ago, I cut all my hair off, and I was the only one who liked it. Everyone else went, "Oh God, what's she done?" And I mean, what better time than being quarantined in your own home to just say, "Who cares? Let's just go ahead and let it go." So I haven't chopped it all off, although I am seriously tempted, but I am going to not dye it for a while and just see if it looks just awful. I know I'm so vain. I'll just dye it and get back to trying to look like a young person.
John and I were talking about, our era, because we all are roughly the same age-ish. And when did your style and your music set in? Because, dudes mature differently than women. We were going to ask you questions about, like people from the era that like wouldn't necessarily resonate out now, like Leather Tuscadero, and like what
Pinky and Leather.
Yes, exactly.
I know. What are you guys all like in your 50s? That's where I'm at.
Yeah, we're 50. We're both 50 years old.
I would say that I definitely, my kids call it boring 70s music. And, but I like a lot of that stuff. Like I love Zeppelin and I love old AC/DC. I'm not a giant fan of Brian Johnson. I'm a 70s, 80s kid because I liked some of the new wave stuff too. And I was like a Cars and Police and, I really, my musical tastes are kind of all over the place because I also will sit and listen to classical music and everything. I'll listen to country music. But don't tell Vinny that because I am just like always say I don't listen to country music and he's supposedly the fan on the show. But yeah, I mean, what are like your core bands that you love?
I'm right there. I grew up with Bay Area funk too, so I like funk, and but yeah, it's the cement dried around. Like for some reason, for me, I would say I'm 50, but the cement dried musically for me between like 10 and 12.
Yeah,
but that was a good time for it to dry because we're talking about the Police, Van Halen, Tower of Power, Earth, Wind and Fire. There's a lot of good stuff right then. So
yeah. What about you?
But I also did love 90s.
Yeah, there's always stuff. I mean, and being kind of in the business that we are, certainly you're exposed to it. And I think the one thing that bothers me about music at this moment is how I basically already own it. That the record collection has more or less gone away. Like, and I've talked about this a million times on the air, but I mean, I really feel like music was precious. We had to save up and maybe could only afford to buy the single, but you still had it and you had your little box of singles and your little thing you'd stick in the hole to play your 45s. And it was just a different, like my whole attitude toward music was completely different. Now it's,
cherished it.
Yeah, because you had had to babysit for 12 hours for 1 week to buy the new Journey album. It was just a kind of a whole different approach to it. Because now, I pay whatever $9.99 a month or whatever my family plan is on Apple Music, and basically I have all the songs.
Anything you want.
Right, and I can just say, play me new songs or play me old songs or play me soft rock.
Yeah. Pete, how many lawns did you have to mow to not stop believing?
Oh my God. I used to get $5 for every car that I washed.
Oh.
Inside and out. 5.
You can get an LP for 2 cars though.
I know, 2 cars on a Saturday and you were styling.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Except for but again, like you had other things to purchase. And so that 50, this is the thing.
Also, cars were bigger.
Cars were bigger.
Cars
these were smaller cars. But when you went and saved up and you bought someone's CD and they had some bullshit on there, I may not buy another CD from that person ever again, and that happened all the time. We're like, there's 2 good songs on this thing. Right.
And they're the ones I've already heard a million times on the radio. I was trying to do a deep dive, man. And here I am listening to this dreck. Yeah. Remember when, I want to say the first time I saw this was at like a Tower Records, I think here. They had listening stations. You could listen to 15 seconds of a track, or maybe it was a minute. I don't know. But I was like, this is awesome. Because now I can see if I like any of these songs. And what you realize is that the first time you hear any song, you do not like it.
Yeah.
It just takes so much more than that. How many songs have you heard for the first time on the radio? And you're like, this is who would ever. And then by the 10th time, or then later you're folding laundry and you're singing it and you're like,
Suddenly
oh,
you like it.
I know. I didn't even know I liked that song. Do either of you guys play instruments or anything?
Yeah, I'm a drummer.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh. Hold on. I wonder if I can. I got my. Well, you might not be able to see my drum set. We recently set up a whole studio
Right
just
on.
as we went into quarantine, and
Yeah.
we don't get to use it because no one can come over.
Yeah.
So I'm the lousy drummer. How long you been playing drums for?
Well, I played as a kid, and then I went away and raised my boys for a long time and didn't play. And then one day, Pete and I found ourselves at we were at the house of Dwayne Wiggins from Tony. And there was a rehearsal happening at his house. And the guy leading the band in the rehearsal was a guy named Levi Ceasar, who played with Prince for many, many years. He was the guitar player on a lot of Prince stuff and throughout the 90s. And the drummer in that situation was late. So,
Oh my God, to jump into that.
I was just like, oh
all
my
these
God.
luminaries.
Yeah. And then the percussionist in the band was Juan Escovedo, Sheila East's brother. And
funny.
He pointed at me and said, he plays the drums, and then pointed at the kid. So you can't say no.
How did he know? You guys just knew each other?
We knew each other from, we had played together back when I had been playing.
So how'd you hang?
Probably terrible. I was probably terrible, but I just sat back there and tried to do as little as possible and not make a mistake and just kind of hold it down. And, when we left, Pete didn't say, God, that was embarrassing. So
it was anything but that. And let me tell my part of the story. I always like to add this. So he and Juan go way back, way back, and they played in a gig or something like that. And so, but Juan remembered, they'd done it before. And so on that one little thing, Juan looks at him and says, he plays the traps, is what he actually said.
Yeah.
And John was like, me, gosh, no. Well, I'm like, oh, please don't pick me. But like, no, I don't, And then they all broke huddle and walked away from him. And he was basically like, you've been picked. You've been chosen. And then he did fine. Levi gave him one direction. He's like, right here, lay off the snare or something like that. And he did. And he never missed it again. He did great.
Oh, thanks, Pete.
Oh, are you guys best friends? What's your deal?
Sort of, but we live 500 miles from each other. So
where are you?
Yeah, I live in Benicia, and Pete lives in Orange County.
But I was in Benicia this week, and John and I got to hang out a few times. We always get together whenever possible.
Yeah.
And then I know you guys through Jonny Moseley, who I do a podcast. That's part of our studio setup here. We do a little podcast with Jonny. But he raved about you. He said how, what fun it is to do the show. And Sarah, you really got to do it. I think you really like it. These are the nice guys.
That's awesome, because he's a walking good time. And he and Pete go way, way back.
We go way back. We go pre-gold medal back. And yeah, it's nutty. Like what because I've got a really good memory for certain things. And so I can lock in and I can say, do you remember when we did this? Remember when you said that? And I can lay these things out. And he's just like, oh my God, I can't, it's funny to have someone who knew you, you met, and we wouldn't have known each other other than like his brother knew one of my really good friends. And so it's just funny to be able to connect. So I actually, I was a spy, and when I was in the Army, I was in Germany, and the World Cup team, his team, came to Europe to do their little European swing. And so unannounced, I just came down because I knew him well enough to do that. And I popped in when they were in France, and, I got a chance to meet up with him. This is in 94, 95, 96 time frame. No, it must've been 95. And, he's just doing what he normally does, doing his job. And all of a sudden these people all show up. Like his girlfriend was a model in Milan at the time. One of the people that's in all the Warren Miller films, he's got these dogs. That guy happens to show up. And so all of these people kind of fall in on Jonny, for this one time. And we had a great time. It's one of my favorite moments in my life was that trip.
Let's go back to you being a spy. I heard when you first asked me to be on the show, I listened to a couple episodes, and there was some show where I don't know, how when you listen to something a lot, you get to know the voices and stuff. And I wasn't watching it. I was just listening to the podcast, but you had like a spy on. Was that you? And you're just like, tell me more about this being a spy thing.
I do a lot of what I call spy versus spy shows, where I ask questions that only someone like me can ask, because I got the inside scoop. And so
Maybe that's what
sometimes
I
I
heard.
am the guest, and sometimes it's, I feature somebody else, but I don't ask like the obvious question. We talk about the other stuff,
What's the obvious question? Like, can you kill someone with a piece of paper, or
Yeah. Like if you tell me
You
what
have
you have to
that
kill me, right? Yeah.
right? The tooth that well, that's it.
Yes.
I cracked the
Yes.
cap.
Yeah,
That's
it's really a USB drive. Yes. Everybody has one of those.
The other thing that you just said was about you're one of those people with the memories. And while that, who can really have recall like that. And for the average person, which I consider myself, my memories, it's, sometimes I remember stuff, sometimes I don't. And you're the most difficult people to argue with because you have proved in the past that you do remember exactly what was said in a conversation, which puts you in a position to actually lie to the person that you're in an argument with, like, no, this is what you said, and I'm going to quote you verbatim. And those are difficult people to argue with because you don't remember. You're like,
Yeah, it sucks.
I'll bet. So, John, you must have some experience with this where he's.
No, Pete's pretty gentle to me. We're just after the good time, but I do see that come out sometimes. In fact, the night Pete and I met, he had come back from Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere. And my wife and I lived in downtown Benicia, right, like walking distance from getting drunk every night. So One night I get home from work and she says, hey, we're going to go, downtown and grab a drink. Pete's home. And I'm like, I don't know who the hell Pete is, but I don't care. So we went and it broke off into a class reunion. And then Pete and I were kind of left sitting with each other while everybody else was socializing together. And that's when I got to know Pete. And then the following weekend, like, we decided, hey, let's get together. And when we were out, something happened. I don't even remember what happened, but something happened.
Pete will remember.
It was, Pete will remember. Something happened. There was some fuckery and somebody was out of line. And I remember I looked at Pete and he looked at me back, and it was like we instantly knew, like, if we have to clean this room out, I'm just going to follow you right out the door.
Oh
and
my
so
God.
it was kind of neat to just to have that that very momentary bonding experience. And then I had a community radio show in Vallejo at the time, and I said, hey, come be on my show. And he did. And it was on a Wednesday night, and we lit the phones up. Everybody thought it was cool. I extracted some stories out of Pete, and he artfully dodged everything like a spy would. And
He's an expert.
Yeah. And then I, at the end of that, I said, man, that was great. Anytime you want to come back, come on back. And he said, well, I don't have a job, so I'll see you next Wednesday.
Oh my God, funny.
And
now you're stuck with him. Oh my God.
Here we are.
So what year was this again? When did this happen?
12?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Something like that.
And then now tell me about this podcast too. At 750 or so episodes, that's years worth. How many are you doing? How many are you doing a week? 5?
Five
He
a
does
week.
about 27 a month, and I chime in on about 3 of them.
Oh,
when I go, I look at the calendar and I go, Sarah Clark. Okay, I'm in on that one. And then, but yeah, I mean, our topics vary so much, and I'm not afraid to say Pete handles most of the heavy stuff, and I handle most of the music stuff.
Well, and you're right. He's very gentle, because I was having email problems when he first started contacting me, and I finally saw one that I thought I'd responded to, and he's like, "Oh no, don't worry. This is what I do all day. I book people and I just figure out ways." I'm like, "Oh, what a sweet man."
That's how he lulls you into compliance.
No doubt. I did think, because I listened to a couple of the episodes, and I was like, this is like legitimate conversation. I don't know what you guys are going to want to talk to me about. Like, I'm kind of a doof. Like, what's so
a doof who has ruled the Bay Area airwaves
with my doofiness from my throne of doofinity.
Once again, lulling people into compliance.
Yeah, exactly. Although people are mad at me this week because, with the George Floyd stuff, I've been, trying to read and educate myself. And like, it really feels like my eyes were really open this week to some of the stuff that's been going on in the country that, I had that.
I think you guys have been awesome.
Oh,
What?
I thank you. But people are getting mad about like,
Yeah.
okay, enough about racism, enough about this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, is it? I don't know if it is. Like, but on the other hand, one of the things I've always said about our show is we're like the not even anti-news, because we do news and we talk about the bullshit that's happening in Hollywood, but we're definitely not the place where you're getting your update on politics or whatever it is. Like I feel like that's not really my job. My job is let's get you to work in a good mood. Truly, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
But it's such a huge thing right now, and I can't look away from it. Like I'm super affected by it. And just on the little bit that I started reading, and then I've and I read more, and then I'm watching this, and I'm just like I'm feeling like crushed under it. And so I'm trying, and I'm, believe it or not, because I express myself somewhat for a living, it's been really hard to put it out there in a way that is both palatable to people who haven't really heard some of the stuff, and also impactful and worth it for people who have. So, but people are reaching the end. Like we start getting texts where people are like, okay, enough. I'm thinking, I don't know if it is. How did I get on this? I brought this up, didn't I?
No, but it's a good point, because you do have a voice for the Bay Area in your case. But I think about these things too editorially. Like, I want to make sure I'm a conversation, and John and I like to sit right in the middle, and we don't mind like pushing to the left and right. And like, here's an example: we had this very powerful right-leaning conservative talker, Victor Davis Hanson, on the show, and he forces you to deal with facts about Trump that are true and positive. And then the very next day, we release a show with Rory Kennedy, who's a Kennedy, for crying out loud. And so, the sort of part of our narrative is to pull ourselves back and let those guys speak and hold up the standard for either side of it. But with this George Floyd stuff, it's so complex. It's hard to know. And I also don't want to go off half-cocked. Like, I want to listen.
I know. I feel the same way.
And then sometimes we just want to crack wise and tell jokes and swear on the show. It's like, that's
lucky.
Yeah, I know. Right?
It's funny when you first said fuck earlier, I was like, oh shit. And then, in my head, I said that because I didn't, but it was, that's the thing about podcasting too. And actually I like that tack, right? So here you are, you're hosting a thing and you're hearing from every side. You're not necessarily doing it to debate. And my problem is I can't do that. Like when I hear, and it's a fault. It is, when I hear something different than what I think, I'm either defensive about it, or I want to go off. I don't want to go off half-cocked, but I do go off half-cocked, which is a large part of why I've been reading and doing, and plan to continue to as much as I can, so that I'm not part of the problem. So it's a fine line that you guys are somehow doing, because that is the way. And then people can't say, I'm mad at you because you had this person on and you said blah, blah, blah. Because then the next day you have a Kennedy on and you got the whole other side of it. And actually that's sort of what's nice about podcasting, is that you're not having to, I suppose people could read the description and go, that one's not for me.
Yeah.
Or I'll take.
The other thing though, is that your definition of half-cocked is probably, you offer disclaimers when you're talking about something and you are not the expert. And so, Vinny's good at it too, because you define yourself as a doof, but your co-host is he's got a lock on the brand. So,
I'm just trying to keep up with his doofiness, man.
Yeah.
No, but that's actually a good point, is that like, it's like, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. Like I have this amazing platform and listeners who've stuck with us through 23, almost 24 years now. Like it's like an honor and a privilege and and it really is.
Yeah.
And so I want to give them what they want, but I also want them to be there and to listen when I'm giving them what they don't want, that they're, I feel like these were hard truths that I learned, and I'm only beginning to learn. I'm not pretending to be an expert on any of this. All I'm saying is I'm trying to find out as much as I can. Now that I've sort of scratched the surface, I'm just disgusted with myself and with society, and I'm just trying to peel that back. And I'm not doing it for you. I'm not doing it for but on the other hand, I am doing it. So it's totally top of mind for me And I don't like, I'm torn between, I don't want to turn listeners off and say, fuck you for your 24 years. Here's what I think. On the other hand, I feel like it's my responsibility with this giant platform. It's a responsibility to say what I think. I don't know. It's been these past couple of weeks. I mean, listen, COVID has been a goddamn nightmare. Like, what the?
Yeah. As soon as you think you might have your hands wrapped around something that's impossible, you realize that the narrative on masks has changed 10 times.
Oh my God.
And every number is going in every different direction. And you're like, is there a second wave? And oh my, and all of a sudden you realize here's where my default is. I trust my nose for what is interesting to me because ultimately I am the audience. And as long as I'm truthful to that, and I try not to bullshit. I try to admit when I'm wrong, which is pretty much every day. And then I also try to keep myself grounded in like, I'm just going to be honest. Like I can say that, like there's some truths about me that I can say and they're terrifying. Like one of them is that just because of my PTSD, I have suicidal ideation every day. I don't say that because I'm going to kill myself, but I say that for the person who's behind me in the PTSD line who is afraid of it still. Cause I was afraid to say it for a long time. I deal with it. I manage it and all that kind of thing.
Wow.
But if I don't do that,
well, obviously I don't know you that well. And that's a surprising thing to hear from someone. And I do think sometimes saying something out loud is the way. Helps not just you.
And I'm going to be honest about it, and as open as I dare to be. There's certain things you don't reveal because, it's just not for everybody. But
right. Like I had this boil and I don't want to tell you where it is, but it's
my boil.
It's bad, man.
Is a boil ever in a good place? It's never.
There are better places than others. But
like on somebody else, best place.
Yeah,
ever.
super. Like, oh, how sad for you. My God.
I'm glad you got my boil. Thank you. Yeah. You're my surrogate boiler.
Oh, I'm hosting it. I'm hosting your boil for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway,
hospitable of you.
I know. Well, I'm a giver. So anyway, God. So where do we go from all of that?
No kidding. I want to know where you are headed. I mean, did you plan on? Nobody plans on 23 years at something, but. You're still doing it and you're still relevant and fresh and you got, your show has great legs on it. We still tune in and it can't just be us. I mean, our generation sort of grew up listening to you in the morning as you grew up on the airwaves, but
had my kids.
It's not just us anymore.
So yes, this was, I mean, in a way, like you figure once you get to 20 years, like you think, well, wasn't that a surprise? And let's continue this. I mean, I really can't take it for granted. When I got the job, I was 30 years old. And I was, when you turn 30, you're like, oh, geez, I'm not a kid anymore. And I guess I'll go work at this adult contemporary station and, see how that goes. I'm older now. It's time for me to settle down. I can't be an alt rock, bitch forever. So I really... If I could have told 30-year-old me, like, listen, lady, for the next 20-something years, this is a fucking marathon. You're going to be rolling and it's only going to get better over just forever. I never could have expected it. And now I still think, like, could I still be doing this? Like in 10 years, I'll be in my 60s. What the fuck?
Crazy.
Like
the other thing in your industry, it's more likely than not that one day you show up and you're like, hey, you're done. And they don't ever mention you again. You are dead to that market.
Right.
It's crazy. And yet
it's
you survive.
Different now.
Yeah,
it's different now, though, because people go, you used to not, the DJ would go away and that was it. They never mentioned them. But now, there's people know where to find me. Believe me, they're yelling at me all the time lately. Like, shut up. You're stupid. Those stupid people, come get me. I'm there.
Yeah.
So as for the future,
get her at Clarky Clark on Instagram.
Oh yes, Clarky Clark. Thank you. My future plans though include and part of the reason I built the studio that is behind me. Hey, is this just a podcast later, or is this video ever gonna go out again?
Audio in the second form.
Okay, so if you're watching now, you can see this. But anyway, there's a whole thing over here you can't see where the drums are set up. That's for you later, John. And, we've got like a whole PA and all kinds of stuff set up. Uh-oh, what happened? Did I just screw up? Oh.
No, I was just trying to show as much of your background as I could. You touched
Here, go
something.
ahead. I don't know if you can.
Let me go solo screen there.
Is that the laundry room?
They got a laundry
No, it
hamper.
isn't. It looks like it, but it isn't. Those are actually racks with pods on them and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
So-
a stuffed cat. Yeah.
I can't, I'm on a actual desktop unit, so I can't pick it up and walk. Sorry. But anyway, so the reason we built that is because like in the future, what my plans are to because I don't know what will happen with broadcast radio, and who the hell knows what's going to happen with any industry these days.
I mean, this is what Alex Bennett did, right? Alex Bennett dominated the Bay Area for decades. And then he's like, I'm still just going to do my own podcast with my mom and hang out at my house,
And that's what I'd like to do. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Human, but he's talking about doing a podcast, and I do the podcast with Jonny, and we're set up for that here. And, and I think that even if like job was to totally go away tomorrow, and Vinny and I have talked about this extensively, like we're still us. We'll do a daily podcast. And actually, I mean, if you're doing it 5 days a week, Pete, this is no joke. Like
no joke. It's work.
It is. And an hour a day is, that's even that, just to go straight for an hour. It's a lot, and it takes a lot of prep work, and and I think interviews are exhausting. So kudos to you for having me on, 'cause I'm a fucking nightmare. I'm exhausting.
Clearly.
But it's, and actually, probably because I can never shut the fuck up, this is probably going fine. I mean, it seems to be. But when is the last time you had an interview with someone who was like, yes?
No, I don't have that problem. I use the
pre-screen.
techniques that No. I just, as a spy, my job is to not have that. Like I ask better questions than the average person. There's a design in my questions.
Uh-huh.
I don't go off of a sheet. I'm listening for certain things instead of to you. And then I pull the levers. And if I get yeses and nos, then that's just a clear sign to me that I'm not doing something right. And I fix it.
I have no technique. So
yeah. I actually have no technique either, Sean.
Yeah.
I think that might be that's our problem, I try to
but
have
here's
a
the
convo, but
There's a lot of times when we're booking people, we will just ask each other, hey, are you interested in this person? And we'll either say, who is that? And then, oh, that person did this. Yeah, that sounds like fun.
right.
And if it doesn't sound like fun, we just don't go after them. So
That's actually probably a pretty good rule of thumb. If neither one of you is like, yeah, I have a burning need to talk to that person, then
That's that editorial, knows that we've built. It's like, if it's not interesting to us, then it doesn't belong on the show. And it doesn't mean that sometimes we don't stretch that, because we definitely do shows that are more service-based for like a charity or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if it's not interesting to us, or if the person doesn't capture our attention, then for the most part, they're not. And I say yes to almost everything, but there are definitely some that we say no to.
Right. Like who? Like what?
William Hung.
Oh, you didn't take William Hung? Oh.
No, we had a
I'm pretty
pre-call
sure
with him.
I'm pretty sure. So you talked to him beforehand, so you knew there was nothing.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
and we
dude. It's
usually
just-
don't do that, but for some reason we did manage to just spend some time with him on the phone.
And was he just not good at answering questions, or what was he just were like, okay, enough of that?
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here. And if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
And was he just not good at answering questions, or what was he just were like, okay, enough of that?
He didn't float our boat.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. I was actually thinking, I think I might have had him on. He's a Bay Area guy, right? He's the one who did the she bang, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he lives in Cupertino or something.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the Sarah and Vinnie Show had him on, you guys,
Good job. Well, you probably got a
Was
good
it?
show out of
Was
him.
it a good job?
Yeah, you
Did
wore
we?
him out.
I know, it was like, I'm done doing interviews after them. Well, if you've worked in radio, you know that there are things and sponsors, and often you're offered things because there's something attached to them.
Mhm.
And, like you can have Keanu Reeves, but his band Dog Star is going to be there and he's not going to talk. So
Right.
you're, it's, I guess, to be in the presence of Keanu Reeves, you say yes to that interview.
Maybe we've turned down Danny Trejo.
Oh, you did? Why? What was he pushing? Oh, was he
Because
pushing that erectile
they were pushing.
thing?
Yeah, let's be clear. We didn't turn him down for any reason like we didn't want to have him. We absolutely still want to have him. But they were like, okay, we'll give you the 10-minute spot. And we're like, we don't want the 10 minutes.
Oh, those are awful.
We've
those
got
are,
an hour for that guy.
I'm with you. If a lot of times I don't have the luxury of that. They're slotting people. You can have Tom Cruise for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
At 6:09, till whatever 4 minutes later is.
No,
well, actually, and a lot of times we'll take it because
you have
when
to.
else are we going to do it?
Yeah.
Right. But it's but those interviews suck so hard because that person is not looking to make a connection with you in any way, shape, or form. They only want to talk. They've only got 4 minutes, and what they want to talk about is the thing that Tom Cruise is going to get that. And this movie was just amazing to work on. Let me tell you more about that. Those are not fun. I like to talk to someone and be able to relax into a conversation.
Yeah. You know what,
Tom
though?
Cruise
I think maybe we'll take. Yeah, that's true. But maybe we will. Maybe we should take that few minutes with Danny Trejo, Pete, because I have a feeling that after that few minutes, he would say, "Let's go again."
Yeah. Maybe.
I'll hang out with you guys. So.
Well, you should ask to be last. That's the trick in those.
Oh.
You ask to be the last person because if you're first, they have great energy when you're first. If you're middle of the pack, forget it. But if you ask to be last and you can be flexible, then if their publicist says, time's up, they can say, oh, no, it's fine. I'll stay on. Because that guy, I mean, what a life. Yeah. The last I saw of Danny Trejo was he's doing some, I can't remember what it is exactly, some erectile dysfunction medication. Like it was fucked up. Like, why is he doing, what was it? It's a gadget. It's a little gadget.
Okay. This gets better and better. It's a gadget even.
I know. I want to look it up, but I'm doing a show right now. So
wow.
Where's my research department?
I'll tell you what, it's not going to be the worst thing in my browser history. Anyway,
who's checking that?
Top Chef recently, and he was one of the guest judges for them. Because he's a businessman. He sells donuts, he sells tacos, and so he's doing a lot of things. You guys do a lot of stuff. You and John, you guys are always. Do you have hobbies, or is your life that you put out there your hobby?
I have a zillion hobbies, and I actually, to the point where I was posting so much about my sewing that I said, I'm going to go ahead and give people a break. If you want more information about this shit that I'm sewing, hey, you want to talk about purses? I got you. And so I spun that off. Like, listen, this is, so my life, I would say, is fairly balanced in my Clarky Clark Instagram. If you're just talking about social media. And then I have like a gardening one because there's only so many pictures of flowers people can see sometimes, or a video of me fucking cleaning a fish filter. Like not everybody wants to see that, but some people do. And so it's there for you. But yeah, that's I have a ton of hobbies. Like I actually play a few musical instruments, not well, none of them. You know what I always say? I play well enough to write a song. So I'll be noodling around and I figure out a song and then I say, hey John, here's this new song. And then it's easy. So he picks it right up. And then I never have to play it again because John plays the guitar and
you handed it over.
I hand it over. I mean, so many songs are like that. I'm also
John's an awesome guitar player.
John is awesome.
He is.
And not just because technically he's good. Like John, you can go hum him a song he's never heard and he'll follow along and find the changes and be able to mock something up. It's incredible.
Yeah.
He's insane. Like I'm so lucky. I didn't even realize how lucky I was to hook up with him. He's like smart. He's super funny. John, you're awesome. I think he's here somewhere.
Yeah.
It's great.
But one of the things when we had Johnny on the show the last time, we were at his place, Moseley's. Everybody should go check that out. Yeah. But we were there, and I love the theme song. It's so catchy. It's so much fun. Terrific. He makes fun of himself. It's such a great, and that's John's work. I mean,
yeah, John wrote John is effing hilarious. He knows just the tone to hit every time. Like, if you haven't heard the Jonny Moseley podcast, it's like I think the chorus is like, Jonny Moseley, I'm wicked excellent. I should be president. I only fly first class. Like John writes all this stuff and Jonny Moseley reads it and he starts laughing. He's like, can I do this? I'm like, yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
So glad he
Welcome
did
to
it
my
too.
podcast. I know.
Trust the process.
So it's right. And actually, I will give it to Jonny Moseley. Like he's got a good sense of humor about himself. Like that's a guy who sort of knows his place in history and is struggling to figure out what his future is going to hold. Like he loves doing the podcast. And so we're always talking. He's like, I would love to just do the podcast. I would like to be available every week because this is what I do. And I'm like, well, we got to sell it. That's what it comes down to. You got to get some listeners and so please listen to the Jonny Moseley podcast, everybody.
There are very few podcasts I have time to listen to. I always make time for your guys. I might get behind by a week or 2 or 3, but I will go on the trail and because I just have such a great time. And for me, I'm not listening like a mechanic. I'm listening just because you guys do such a great job.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Yeah, it's great. It's really, I don't think about anything except for what you guys are talking about. And I get such a kick. So definitely everybody should go check it out because it's Jonny Moseley. He's super cool. You guys are all having a great time and it comes across. And look, I'm going to tell you you're talented, but it's a real talent to pull that off.
Also, listen to Sarah and Vinnie. You can get them on radio.com. And then when you're streaming that, just let it go.
Yes, right. Thank you. Never
actively,
just leave it on.
Passively.
Just turn it down.
Yeah.
Keep the stream going.
Let it go.
God damn, the world has changed. Like that's actually,
that's a thing. Yeah.
It's a thing. Like they count our streams. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like this is so not. It reminds me. I remember when I was a kid, my grandma and grandpa, their house was like the central part of our neighborhood. My family all lived together in this neighborhood, and we would just walk through their little outdoor space. I'm from Guam originally, so you are.
It was a tiny house, but they had 8 kids, but nobody was ever inside the house ever. So there was just.
Where is Guam exactly? Please forgive my. Yeah, like where is it exactly?
To take off west, and you flew and stopped in Hawaii and got gas, and then just kept going west until you weren't technically going west anymore. You landed.
Is it like Indonesia?
It makes a triangle. If you had Japan and the Philippines and Guam would make a triangle together.
Am I seeing you backwards? I'm not sure if I'm.
You are seeing me backwards.
So it's further away.
But
it's further. All right.
Hawaii is like 5 hours away, right?
Uh-huh.
Guam is 7 hours after that.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you grew up there.
Far as you go, it's about as far as you can go, and
without going the other direction.
Yeah, before you're coming back.
Right.
The only further you're already coming back. So
he lives near SpongeBob.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Say that again. What?
He lives near SpongeBob. Bikini Bottom.
I see. I get it.
He's in the Marianas, and that's
pineapple
where they are, way out there.
But the point of this story was that
so you're right. Yeah.
There was always a radio on, and you did just sort of during the day. You would run inside to eat a mango or something, and by inside I mean into the place where we all gathered. It was still sort of outside, but you would just kind of check in with the radio, which was going all the time.
Right.
And so that's what you are. But here's my problem with your podcast, because I listen on Apple Podcasts, is you divide it into your 20-minute snippets, which is cool if you have 20 minutes. But I like to put it on and then do stuff.
I know.
And when I'm doing stuff, I go, now I got to reload.
Well, I'll tell you a secret about that because numbers are everything.
Yeah.
And if you do 4 podcasts a day, you get that many downloads. But if you split it into news and celebrity trash into 2 segments, you get that many more downloads. And it's an ugly truth about corporate America, which actually, and I will say this, as annoying as I get that is, and I wish I could say, I'll go change that immediately for you. Entercom has been great because I don't know if you listened to the podcast before. We used to have to bleep everything. Yeah. Like there was a whole CBS standards and practices. And the day they took over, I said in a meeting, hey, what's going on with everybody else gets to swear on the podcast? He goes, well, you do too. And we went and cut our secret show. And, we said all the bad words. Yeah. But it's unfortunately that's a product
It's a
of
strategic thing.
It was right, not my strategy.
Yeah.
But it's so I'm going to try and remain blameless and yet go, then I'm not going to do anything about that.
Oh, let's face it.
So-
It's not enough to be mad about. It's sort of like when you're courting with somebody and you're like, yeah, I think he eats his peas with his knife. It's not gonna.
Oh,
Well,
that's
all
enough
right.
for me right there.
Is that enough for you?
I can't watch you eat your peas off your knife. Wait, you're saying you would like scrape your peas onto your knife and hold your knife up to your mouth and go on your knife? Is that what you're telling me?
She's
Yeah.
pantomiming eating peas.
I can't
the thing.
I can't get behind that. Although I do love peas.
Yeah.
Not everybody loves peas, What's your
By the
favorite
way, your
vegetable?
gardening game, speaking of peas, is getting lots of love from John's wife and from Dana, who's also
there's
in
my wife.
Venetia.
She's
And so they're
Oh, hey,
suggesting-
Dana.
Yeah, they're saying, hey, get that thing going. But it's funny. Here's a funny fact. I've actually never really, to my knowledge, listened to your show because I moved out of the Bay Area before you got there. And then when I came back, I never really had like a morning drive kind of,
Right.
of job. So I've never like tuned the radio to, and I listened to it to prep for the show, but I've never like hit the Sarah and Vinnie dial. But I knew about you guys because you are so pervasive.
Even
and
where you
another-
live down south? I'm surprised.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
he
you
still
can,
has 1 foot in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
up there all the
all
time.
right. You hear
And so
about
that brings me to Brian Holson, who's also from Bernice, and same thing, where he had left before you guys got there. He'd love to listen. What is the show about? Sarah and Vinnie. Tell us what it's about. Pitch us your show.
If
How long
only
has it
I
been since we had
knew
to do that?
what my show is about. It's about everything. I feel like there isn't a lot we haven't touched on, at least in a cursory way. And we've actually said that before. Like if we ever run out of anything to talk about, like anyone can yell out anything and every one of us will have an opinion on it or have something to say about like there's nothing you can say to me right now that I couldn't start a conversation with about that. But I think that in a lot of ways, the show is about our friendship. It's about the chemistry of the people who work on the show. I should say, I think that's why the show works, right? It almost doesn't matter what the topic is. People feel close enough to us after all these years that they can either relate or they know that they can safely disagree with anything any one of us says. So the show is about, on the surface, it's about dumb shit that celebrities do that no one gives a fuck about. No one cares. Does anyone care what Kim Kardashian does? But if Khloe comes in, Khloe here. Oh, well, does anybody have any corn dogs I can snack on? All this stupid bullshit that goes along with that. And then as far as news goes, we do some headlines, but then we look for like stupid stories, some stupid idiot in Michigan who drove his car off a cliff and landed in a tree and a bird, some protected bird's egg went flying, and now the environmentalists are just stories that are just crazy and weird. And then to me the show's just always been about it's like you said earlier, actually. You said I can tell if the show's going well because I'm interested, or is that what you said? Something.
Basically, yeah.
You're the memory guy.
Yeah.
So but I actually think that that's true, and I use that as a metric myself. Like if I'm getting bored with a topic, it's time to do something else. Like and not that I'm some barometer for what other people want to hear about, but there's no question that I am measuring that by my own standards. And if I'm having fun, I stop worrying about it. If I'm having fun and I'm laughing and some dumb thing is happening and I'm getting a kick out of it, as far as I'm concerned, that's what it is. So there is no answer to your question, is what I've decided. I don't know what the show's about. I really don't.
Well, you know what? It's not that we care. I'm speaking for the audience now. It's not
Thank
that
you.
we care about Kim Kardashian. It's that we care about what your reflection is
Funny.
about Kim Kardashian. And
Oh
the
my God, it's
chemistry
amazing.
between you and Vin, because you have differing opinions.
Yeah, always,
Yeah.
every time.
And so it's for the banter about the topic much more than it's about the topic.
Right.
And I think that when we ask you that question, like, what's your show about? It's Pete and I kind of get, I don't know, I won't speak for Pete because he's never said these words, but I sort of get annoyed at the question because we've had to answer it so many times, but it's not about anything. It's just about our fascination for things.
Oh,
And so, yeah, that's what we're into. Is we want to hear.
And the
what you think
topics
about it.
do vary. I mean, just reading down as I was picking a few to listen to, I'm like,
Life varies.
holy shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, come
Right.
on.
Yeah, and I actually think that makes a show work. I think I'll steal that and I'll use that next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
It's about the things that we find fascinating.
Yeah, if folks that want, like, they'll say, well, you have to niche. Here's the thing is, you may not experience this anymore, but, the podcast world, we're all trying to break out. It's all about discovery. And our show is one of the most successful podcasts, honestly, in the world. Like, we're in the top 1%. We're not as big as Joe Rogan, but we've done very well. We make a little bit of money.
Yeah, that's
all those
huge.
things. Right. It's enormously successful, but yet we're still not like a smash because, we just don't have that giant thing. And people will tell me all the time, like, you have to get a niche. You have to get a niche. Like, where you been for 600 episodes? Like, it's too late for that. Like, the niche is everything. It's life, and they always give you more work. And you're like, don't give me more work. I need to be discovered. Like, what do we have to do that, specifically? And it's hard to do these things. That's why nobody really knows how to get over that next. Like, we've jumped several canyons along the way. Can we produce a show a week?
Being in the top one, you're already there. All you need to do now is stay there and keep going.
Keep doing it.
Because you're right. It's canyons. Everyone thinks they can do a podcast. And guess what? It is completely not true.
Right.
It's stamina. I'm like proud of you. Like that takes work.
Yeah.
You look at someone like Jonny, and I do a lot of this stuff I make podcasts for a living. And so someone like Jonny, I've learned to say these words to people that want to do this. Like, you can make more money just doing what you already do more. If you want to do a podcast, it's a whole new business for them, because and it's not easy to get enough.
No.
Like, the most douchey thing to say about right now is listen to my podcast, because it's just everybody's got one. So how are you going to stand out? Because nobody cares about doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
Nobody cares about your podcast.
But until they do, right? So right. They're the person who said you guys got to get a niche. They're not wrong. It's just that you were beyond that point. Yeah. Because they're not wrong. Like a lot of people are doing this now, and there are so many amusing, clever people in the world. There really are. I mean, I don't even think there's a debate about that. Most people, they're all wonderful and unique, but that's not enough. Like, there has to be something more. There has to be a thirst for knowledge on a particular topic, or a thirst for, like you guys said, you're fascinated by everything. You can dig deep into that. Or there has to be some, this guy's a clown on this other thing, so I'm going to check out the podcast. Or like, I remember the first podcast I ever listened to was Serial, and it was a story, so it was that kind of hooked me in. And I don't listen to a ton of podcasts. I do listen to a few, and I make a few, but there's not that many hours in the day. So there has to be something special to make people want to listen to a podcast. So congratulations on being in the top 1%. That's an incredible accomplishment.
Well, there's a couple things that I'll chime in about. And
okay, John.
One is when we get the advice of you gotta get a niche. We want to take good advice, so we always entertain stuff like that. So when we talk about it, we go, hey, Pete, so do you think we ought to break it up and make a show about this and a show about that and separate the things? And while we're thinking about that, Pete will say, oh, we have Sarah Clark on the calendar for next week. And I go, yeah, well, let's stop thinking about that other thing. And so it always just kind of brings you back. And the other thing is I take the opposite tack now. If the podcast comes up a lot of times, and the podcast comes up a lot of times because we've had so many guests. I mean, naturally, we've had a lot of drummers on the show. So if somebody brings up any kind of music, we are at the point now where somebody we've had on the show touches practically every kind of music.
Everything.
Yeah. So we
right.
can't turn on the radio and not go, oh, there's, some guest who's been on the show.
Right.
So now when people ask about it, I typically say, it's probably not for you. And I dare them to listen.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's like, it's like tricking.
You probably wouldn't like it.
Yeah, it's not for you. It's really, we take deep dives into stuff. I don't know if you can handle it.
Yeah.
That's that's a luxury that you're able to say that to people because you have enough listeners and viewers.
No, that's not true. I mean,
Well, right. Is there
we
ever
probably
enough?
shouldn't say
Listeners
it,
want
but it's
to.
fun to say it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, it's well, listen, you guys, I actually, as I was saying earlier, like my plan is long into my life, I want to keep on, even if it's an hour a day or whatever. And I know how much work this is. And I would say to your listeners, like, try to have an appreciation, tell a friend or tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and so on. And it'll be, I mean, it's, what you're doing is great. And very few things rise to the top. You're in the creamy layer.
Yeah, we are in the creamy layer. We'd like to get up in that foam, on top of one of those foam bubbles.
Yeah,
but it
bubbles
does
explode though.
Yeah, that's true too. But it does take that hard work and the repetition, because you've got to earn the respect of the audience. People ask me all the time, like, how do I monetize? Like, well, how do you make something valuable?
Right.
What do you have? And if your audience, audience buys books, I can tell an author legitimately, like, if you come on the show, we're going to sell books. And what do they want to do? They want to be salesman of the year every year in their book selling business. And so if I can help them sell even 10 books, they're like, well, that was easy,
And it's 10 more than I sold yesterday. So you
exactly.
I love reading. So it is actually funny that I have listened to certain podcasts just to like get an idea for another book. So yeah, I mean, monetizing is what it comes down to. You could have the best podcast in the world, but you got to go sell it. I mean, who handles that? Pete, is that you? You the sales guy?
Handle? I mean, yeah. Yeah.
How do you handle the crush of advertisers that are begging to be on the show?
It's just so many people coming at you. Yeah. Well, like anything, right? It's a small business. And so all the hats go on John's on my head, and it's a lot. And so, I default to becoming known through production and have folks approach us. And we get approached all the time. Not everything's right. Everybody wants you to sell their product. Like, hey, you can be an affiliate and sell our mattresses. Like, well, I'm not interested in that. Either the show is valuable to you or it's not, and there's no hard feelings. So it's an ever evolving process as we all try to figure out how to squeeze more money out of the show. But we get more all the time though. So it's working. It's just no one would pick this form of business and go, this is the path. Oh, perfect. Let's do that.
It's like torture.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you have to like tell people why your show's amazing and why you're worth investing their money in. And it's, it's hard to be an advocate for yourself. I find that.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
I'll easy to go, it's probably not for you.
Right. There you go. That is not going to work when you're trying to sell this to someone, John. Stop it.
Clearly.
Yeah, I will say this though, and this is good on you guys for doing it. You're an awesome advocate for Peter Glenn. I mean, on Jonny Moseley's show, you guys have absolutely made me go to their website and check things out that I normally wouldn't have done. Like, that's what advertisers need to get is it's okay, great, there's numbers, but who cares about the numbers? Can you get someone to click on my website? And if you can, there's value in that. And you guys are seriously fantastic about that. I'm retired from skiing and I'm looking at ski gear.
Oh my God, that's so
Johnny
funny.
And you puts it into my head that I can maybe do this,
It's the jingle. I'm convinced. I love that jingle. Yeah. So that must
Jingle's
be it.
Good.
Dude, the rollerblades. So listen, those are fun, but I'm a roller skate girl. I have to say, I tried them. I did them a couple times. And I went, you know what? I am an old dog. Like, give me my roller skates. I like to know how to brake. I want that.
True confession for you. Are you, when you go out and you roller skate, do you get a little boogie going and start rexing a little bit?
Of course. Yeah. Hello. I mean, look at me. I'm such a smoking hot vixen. Gray vixen. What am I? A white vixen? A silver vixen. Silver vixen. Yeah. I knew there was something. Yeah, of course I do. I put on short shorts and leg warmers, and
you're practically vixen, rexing just sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. If my wife has the roller skates with the
bumper on the front,
the tennis shoe roller skates with. Yeah. And we got them for her for Christmas a couple years ago. And my friend Kelvin, who lived across the street from me, I have a friend, his name is Kelvin Gomez, and we grew up together in Vallejo on the same street, and then coincidentally found ourselves living on the same street again. And
he's stalking you, John.
This has happened a couple of times. Yeah, where we've lived, within a block of each other for most of our lives. But one day, she went outside and put these roller skates on and didn't think anybody was looking. And like, he came outside to check the mail or something. And exactly when she just, skates up, landed flat on her ass.
Oh no.
When he came out, and she had to deal with like the fall and then the immediate coming from across the street.
Oh no, the embarrassment. How dare he laugh at her? God, you run over and you see if you can help.
No, that's the relationship.
He's a brat. God.
Laugh first and then run over and see if you can help. Yeah. And then, of course, as the person who fell, you have to refuse the help out of pride, and then the laughter continues.
Yeah. Honestly, it's the worst to get hurt. It's the worst because when you fall and you're just embarrassed and then you're really in pain and you might have broken your tailbone, but you just have to suck. No, everything's fine. I'm okay. Oh yes, hilarious. Oh, nothing broken but my pride. And then you go home and cry and you look at the big blue, thing on your back.
Yeah.
But
and then your significant other goes, no, really, you have to go to the hospital. You might have blown that thing out. And you're like, no, I'm fine. And then 2 days later, you're like, I probably have to go to the hospital.
Yeah, this thing seems like it's getting bigger.
This bone is still sticking out.
Right.
I don't have allergies.
No, they are allergies. I'm not going to the hospital right now. There's no question.
Hey, so this home setup that you've got going on here.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here? Because the broadcast quality has not suffered. You guys sound great.
Isn't that funny how it actually, it's funny because we get a lot of crackling in our ears, but I guess our feeds back to the station are decent. So you're saying it sounds pretty clean.
Yeah, quality is clean.
It's, so I think that down the line, for us, we'll produce podcasts and it's great to have this, but I want to get into like the jingle business. Like I actually think that I know that's hard to break into, but I do think that John has a total knack for it. And I'm like an awesome cheerleader. So I'd be like, yeah, you should do that. That sounds great. So that'll be my job.
But he's good at that. He's got a jingle in him right now.
He's legit.
He's probably singing something in his head. I hear him in the kitchen right now. He's,
singing
he's
and making an omelet.
Yeah, I don't know what he's making, but not a mess. I'll tell you that right now. That guy, anal, really clean, really, really clean.
Boy, you landed a good one.
I did. Oh my God, it's crazy. I was I just don't even know what I would have turned out to be if it wasn't for him. If we divorce, he totally deserves half, more than half. I should really actually say, just give me, like an allowance, so I don't go crazy.
Okay.
Is there a project you would like to take on, but you just do not have the time? Like, I feel like my plate is so full, I can only take on things by design at this point.
Like if I could do my dream thing, suddenly
if you could add a little more capacity to your life, like what would you add in?
In some ways I do this. I actually love houses and construction and design. If I had nothing but time and no budget, let's face it, you gotta. Yeah. That's the prohibitive thing in fixing a house up. I would find like just a monster house that needed to be restored and I'm really into that though. Like we've done that with a few houses and so which has nothing to do with anything else I do in my life. But that's what I would do. Why? What would you do? Time and money are no issue.
I would create more podcast things. I would just do less of the hands-on work and more of like the executive production. I probably would still host in some way, but maybe not. But I just want to tell more of these kind of stories, because it's just exciting. It's not work to me. It's just, time and money. And if I could have access to those things, I could do more and better, all that kind of stuff.
What about you, John?
I make a crappy movie about every 12 to 15 years.
Oh yeah, making a movie would actually be kind of awesome.
Yeah, just make them closer together and hopefully close enough together to get less crappy at it.
You have to do it a few times.
I'll admit they're terrible, but
So have you made some movies?
Yeah, 2 of them, and there.
Are you saying they're crappy?
There were points in my life where I was kind of a bit movie star in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
But it's so much fun that you do it over again and then you recover from it financially over a period of years. And then if your wife is an enabler like mine is, she says, go. Oh,
Dana.
Yeah. Great story. I'll tell you I'll tell you in brief. This is where my wife is in my heart. We, I spent a bunch of money making a movie many years ago, and I took it to the film market and it wasn't selling. And like day one, when you're at the film market, you're all hopeful. And then day two, it still hasn't sold. Like the territory sales aren't creeping up. You aren't getting the big contracts. You're not getting meetings with people. Day three, it starts getting a little rough. You just start spending more of the day watching movies. And then day four, I remember we went in, and my filmmaking partner is my cousin. We walked into a movie theater, and instead of sitting together, he went one way and I had to go the other way because I had to sit by myself. And then I got up in the middle of the movie. I went outside and I picked up the phone and I called my wife and I said, this, like I told her, this is not going well. I've spent all this money. This is terrible. This is my, I was crying in the middle of Santa Monica in the film market. I'm just like sobbing, and I'm, having to tell my wife this news. And at one point I said, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And she said, you're going to fucking make another one. And
she's a total enabler. She's awesome.
Get rid of you. I will never.
You can't. All she cares about is your dreams.
Yeah, that's right.
That's amazing.
Absolutely true.
Well, and you will make more, right? So you probably have one cooking in your head right now. And you only get better. Did you sell the second one?
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky enough to sell them a little bit. So,
a little's better than zero.
We got a couple territory sales. It did get released in Thailand. It got released in Russia, and then it got pirated in a bunch of other places. But, that's the thing. And we just start to get good at it. And then we go get day jobs and we have to do things. And then 15 years later, we do something else. And, remember that lesson we learned? Man, that would have been great if we had learned it 14 years ago and picked up a little head of steam. But, so that's how that goes. That's what I would do. I'd just make more.
Well, that's, I tell you, at age 50, we all still have dreams. That is saying something, that's a lot of people. I do feel like what I thought about people who were 50 years old and what the actual reality is of being that, I love that you guys are both, well, look, you do podcasts too. That's, I think at our hearts, we have to be dreamers because we've been bitten by that, that radio media, the buzz bug, there's a buzz to it. I'm glad. It's nice. It was nice talking to you guys because you're very, it's sort of inspiring.
Well, you have always been inspiring to us. And,
thank you, John.
We love you. We love Vinny. We love John. We love,
you got to get Vinny on next. Vinny, I bet would be pretty fun.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Anyway, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure to be on. I really appreciated getting to know you, and and thanks to your viewers and listeners.
We do it again?
Thanks for having me. Sure, I'll do it again.
Okay, great.
It was easy.
All right, I'm going to sign off.
I was nervous. I won't be anymore.